Chosen one, has your soul ever whispered to you, "This isn't it. This isn't what you were created for"? Have you ever looked around at your life, at the job, the routine, the repetition, and felt something sacred inside you breaking, not out of weakness, but from being buried too long? Maybe you've smiled when you were supposed to, pushed through when you wanted to pause, survived when your spirit was made to create. And now, in the quiet, you feel it. The dull ache, the divine tension, the weight of a life that never quite fit you. They told you it was enough. They handed you a schedule and a paycheck and called it security. But your soul has never known peace there. Not because you're ungrateful, not because you're difficult, but because you are different, set apart, chosen. Not everyone was built for this world's rhythm. And you, dear soul, were never made to follow the map. They gave you a compass, a holy one. That's why the 9 to 5 for you became a cage. You see, there comes a moment in every chosen one's life when the noise of the world can no longer drown out the truth. You don't belong where they've placed you, and your spirit knows it. That's why you're tired in ways you can't explain. That's why no promotion, no praise, no professional title ever felt like home. Because it wasn't. It was a holding place, a detour, a classroom maybe, but not your destination. And now something is stirring. It's not dramatic, it's sacred, a quiet inner flame that refuses to go out. You feel it at work when you wonder, is this what I'll be doing for the rest of my life? You feel it on weekends when rest doesn't restore you. You feel it in the silence when you can finally hear your own heartbeat and it sounds nothing like the life you're living. Now I'll ask you something serious. You have a choice right now. You can click away, go back to the noise, the scrolling, the distraction, and lose the clarity your soul's been crying for. Or you can stay until the end. Stay and receive the words that were meant to confirm what your spirit already knows. And if you do, you'll walk away lighter, stronger, remembering. Because this message didn't find you by accident. It found you on time, right where you are. And yes, it's personal. You might feel forgotten by destiny, but you're not. You may think it's too late to start over spiritually, but that's the lie you've been carrying. The truth is, midlife isn't the end, it's the unlocking. And no matter how far you've wandered, purpose is not something that expires. It waits, quietly, until you're ready. So let this space be your confirmation. Let it be your turning point. Let it remind you that you're not lazy, not crazy, not broken. You're awakening. Slowly, powerfully. You were chosen by God not to fit into the system, but to break free from it. That 9 to 5. It was a trap for your spirit. But this right here, this is the beginning of your release. And while you're here, subscribe, not just to a channel, but to a sacred rhythm your soul has been waiting to return to. This is more than a message. It's a place, a quiet sanctuary for the weary, a reminder that you are not forgotten, not too late, not broken. You are becoming. Comment 111 or 777 if your spirit feels the pull. Let it mark your moment of remembrance. Because this isn't just a video, it's a divine interruption, a sacred invitation. So stay close. Come back often. Whenever the world gets too heavy, this space is here. Come back to rest your soul, chosen one. You belong here. Now take a deep breath, and let's begin. There was a time you believed that hard work would lead to peace, that following the rules, keeping your head down, doing the right thing would one day make it all worth it. They told you this was the path. Get the job, keep the job, move up, retire. But you've started to see through the cracks, haven't you? Somewhere along the way, you realized the ladder they told you to climb was leaning against the wrong wall. And now you're tired. Not just in your body, but in your spirit. The 9-to-5 life was supposed to bring stability, but for you, it brought something else. Numbness, silence, a spiritual disconnection. You do the work. You say the lines. But your soul knows something is missing. You sit in meetings wondering why you feel so far from yourself. You finish projects that look successful on paper, but inside, there's no celebration, only a deeper ache. The kind that doesn't come from laziness, but from being misaligned with your destiny. You see, chosen one, the system was never designed with you in mind. It was built to keep things functioning, predictable, controlled, and your spirit was never meant to be controlled. That's why you've always felt like you were walking through someone else's dream. You wake up, get dressed, show up, but your soul lingers behind, untouched by the rhythm of the world around you. This is where the holy tension begins. You feel torn between what the world says is responsible and what your soul says is real. You keep thinking, maybe it's just a phase. Maybe if you get promoted, if the salary increases, if the office changes, maybe then it will feel better. But it never does. And deep down, you know it never will. Because the issue isn't the job, it's the misalignment. For the chosen ones, emotional pain is often the first sign of spiritual misplacement. That deep sadness that rises after long days, the dread that comes on Sunday evenings, the fatigue that no rest can fix. It's all pointing to something sacred. It's your soul speaking. Not to punish you, but to awaken you. To remind you that you were not placed on this earth to merely function. You were placed here to transform. That's why your spirit started to withdraw. Not because you're failing, but because you're being redirected. Your discomfort is divine. Your dissatisfaction is a compass. It's not just burnout, it's breakthrough. You've outgrown the system because your spirit has matured beyond survival. You were meant to build, to lead, to heal, to speak. But the job has kept you small, quiet, afraid to take the leap. And now, the system that once seemed like safety feels more like a slow suffocation. You may wonder if it's irresponsible to leave, if it's foolish to want more. But what's more dangerous? Staying in a place that dims your soul, or stepping out into the unknown where your purpose lives? You already know the answer. That's why you're here, watching this, listening, feeling the truth rise in your chest, even as fear tries to silence it. Let me tell you something sacred. You were never lazy. You were never meant to thrive in a place that starves your calling. You were never meant to live by hours and wages. You were meant to live by wonder and wisdom. The trap was never the job. It was the belief that your life ends with what someone else was willing to pay for your time. The truth, you are not behind. You are being called forward. The world taught you to clock in. Heaven is teaching you to wake up. This pain isn't the end, it's the beginning. A doorway, and your soul is finally ready to walk through it. The sacred doesn't shout, it whispers. And it's whispering now. It's time. You've been taught to fear the middle, to believe that by the time you reach this place, this age, this stage, it's too late to start again. Too late to dream differently, too late to change course. They call it a crisis, but what if it's not? What if what you're feeling isn't collapse, but a calling? You see, chosen one, midlife isn't your ending, it's your awakening. It's the moment when the world's noise begins to quiet, just enough for you to hear your own soul again. The voice that was drowned out by expectations, buried under roles, silenced by survival. And now, in this strange season, that voice is growing louder. Not with pressure, but with permission. You are remembering things you forgot, dreams you set aside, passions you labeled as impractical. gifts you buried to become realistic. And for the first time in a long time, your soul is asking, what if I was never supposed to let that part of me go? This is the secret of the midlife spiritual awakening. It does not come with fireworks or fanfare. It arrives in quiet tension, in long pauses, in holy restlessness. You feel it when the things that used to fulfill you no longer satisfy. You feel it when what made sense for years suddenly doesn't fit anymore. You feel it when you're surrounded by people, yet feel unseen. And it's not because you're broken. It's because you're being reintroduced to your real self. The one you were before the world told you who to be. The one who still remembers. They told you the peak of your life was in your youth. But the truth is, some flowers bloom late on purpose. Some stars don't shine until the sky is darkest. And some callings are so deep they can only be heard when you've lived enough life to finally listen. The phrase, "too late to start over," spiritually is a lie. That's not your truth. That's not your story. In fact, it's in this season, this mid-place, that God often begins his greatest work. Not despite your age, but because of it. Because of the wisdom, the scars, the stories. Because now you're not chasing image, you're chasing truth. You've done what you were told, you followed the map, and still you feel lost. That's because the map was made for the masses. But you were born with a compass, and it's finally pointing somewhere new. This moment in your life isn't a breakdown, it's a breakaway from expectations, from illusions, from a version of yourself that played small to stay safe. Now you're being called back to the sacred, back to the beginning, back to the voice that first whispered your name in the dark and told you, you are not here just to exist, you are here to become. Don't let the fear of starting again keep you from the life you were always meant to live. Don't let age be a prison when it was meant to be a passage. The world may call this a crisis, but heaven calls it a return, a holy remembering. And if you're feeling the ache, the shift, the hunger for something more, then you're not failing. You're awakening. You didn't miss it. You're right on time. From the very beginning, you knew you were different. It wasn't something you could explain. It wasn't something you asked for. You just felt it. In classrooms, in crowds, in conversations. There was always a quiet sense that you didn't fully belong. You could adapt. You could play the part. But deep down, you knew something about you moved to a different rhythm. Chosen one, that dissonance wasn't a flaw. It was a sign. You didn't fit in because you weren't meant to. You weren't created to follow the patterns of this world. You were designed to build something new, something sacred. That's why your spirit resisted the systems. That's why your soul questioned what others blindly accepted. You were never rebellious. You were aware. The phrase "feeling forgotten by destiny" may have passed through your heart more times than you can count. Watching others rise while you remained hidden. Watching people around you build lives, platforms, names, while you waited in silence. You wondered, did I miss my chance? Did God forget me? But the truth is, you were never forgotten. You were being formed. You see, builders often look like misfits until the moment of divine construction begins. And you, chosen one, were never meant to live in the houses others built. You were called to lay foundations, to raise walls of truth, to create places where the weary find rest and the lost find light. But before you could build, you had to break out of the mold, break away from the illusion, break free from everything that tried to reduce you into a role you were never created for. There's a reason your path took longer. There's a reason you couldn't fake it anymore. The discomfort was divine. The delay was not denial. It was preparation. Not everyone is trusted with sacred blueprints, and those who are must be hidden until the right time. So don't curse the seasons of isolation. Don't despise the years when no one saw you, because heaven did. And while the world thought you were wasting time, heaven was watching you gather wisdom. You've been entrusted with something rare, a spiritual architecture, a design that doesn't come from degrees or corporate ladders. It comes from the wilderness, from the tears, from the places you almost gave up. And now, slowly, your spirit is being reintroduced to that original instruction, that buried brilliance, that silent knowing you carried even as a child, the one that whispered, "You are here for more." You were chosen by God not because you were perfect, but because you were willing to endure being unseen, willing to walk a narrow road, willing to listen, even when it meant walking alone. And now, everything you thought disqualified you is becoming your qualification. Your pain became your blueprint. Your patience became your anointing. Your difference became your design. You never fit in because you were born to stand out in sacred places. You were made for more than applause. You were made for impact. Not everyone will understand. Not everyone will recognize what you carry. But you're not here to be recognized. You're here to build. So if you've ever wondered why the path was lonely, why the doors stayed closed, why nothing ever felt like home, it's because your soul was never meant to rent space in someone else's story. You were born to construct your own. And now, the cement is mixing. The ground is clearing. The vision is returning. Your spirit is picking up the hammer. It's time. There's a specific kind of pain the chosen ones carry. It doesn't always scream. It doesn't always show. But it's there, quiet, steady, sacred. It follows you through your routines, through your workdays, through your silent nights. And for years, you may have called it weakness. You may have thought something was wrong with you. But the truth is that pain was never random. It was holy evidence. Chosen one, the reason your emotions run deep is because your purpose runs deeper. That ache you feel, that heaviness you can't explain, it's not just tiredness, it's not just stress, it's your soul trying to speak. It's your inner life pushing against a surface-level existence. It's your spirit saying, "There's more than this." You see, those around you may have learned to numb it. They blend in, they move on, but you can't. You feel everything too much. You sense things others don't. You carry the weight of what's unspoken. And it's because you were never meant to live on autopilot. You were never designed to be comfortable in places where truth is absent. You were never meant to feel at ease where your spirit is not free. Emotional pain, for the chosen ones, is often the beginning of awakening. It's the soul's rebellion against living beneath its purpose. It's the sacred fire that burns away illusion. You may not have had the words for it, but you've known the feeling when you walk into a place and your chest tightens, when you're around certain people and your spirit feels small, when you're doing something that looks right on the outside, but it drains your light on the inside. This pain isn't a problem, it's a pointer. It's guiding you away from false identities, from systems that suffocate your essence, from paths that lead you further from who you were called to become. It's the inner signal that your soul is misaligned, and you've outgrown the old story. That's why nothing numbs it for long. Not distractions, not entertainment, not even success. Because your pain is not just emotional, it's directional. It's heaven's way of reminding you that your life is sacred ground, and what doesn't honor that will eventually fall apart. So don't rush to get rid of the pain. Listen to it, sit with it, ask it what it's here to teach you. Ask it what truth you've been avoiding. Ask it what parts of you need to rise again. Because underneath that pain is power, the kind of power that can't be faked, the kind that isn't loud but undeniable. It's the quiet strength that comes from surviving without losing your sensitivity, the kind of strength that says, "I still feel, and that's how I know I'm alive." Emotional pain may have made you question your worth, but the truth is, it proves your depth. It proves your heart is still awake. It proves that you care deeply, even when the world tries to make you numb. And that, chosen one, is a gift, not a flaw. You are not too emotional. You are not too sensitive. You are not too intense. You are exactly what this world needs more of. People who feel, people who know, people who can't pretend. Because that kind of person can't be bought, can't be programmed, and can't be silenced. You've spent enough time trying to fix what was never broken. Now it's time to see your pain for what it really is. The sacred evidence that you were always meant for something more. There are parts of your story you rarely speak about. Moments you regret. Choices that haunt you, years that feel wasted. And though you've moved forward, that lingering shame still whispers when the world gets quiet. You wonder if you've missed too much, if the detours disqualified you, if the damage you've done, or the damage done to you, has somehow erased your calling. But hear this, chosen one. God does not throw away what he anoints. The shame you carry is not the end of your story. It's the soil from which redemption grows. What looks like ruin to man is often raw material in the hands of heaven. Your past, with all its missteps and silence and struggle, is not a disqualification. It's a divine preparation. You see, we often think that to be chosen means to be perfect. But that's never been true. Look through any sacred story and you'll find it. Those who were called were rarely clean. They were scarred, wandering, uncertain. And yet, it was through those broken places that the light came in. So if you felt disqualified by your past, you're in holy company. The enemy of your soul doesn't fear your past. He fears what you'll become once you stop letting your past define you. He fears the voice you've been quieting. He fears the purpose you've buried beneath guilt. Because once you realize that your worst moments did not stop God's plan, they prepared the stage for it, you become dangerous in the best kind of way. Chosen one, the job you lost, the time you wasted, the relationships that broke you, none of it was random. Each chapter, even the ones you'd rather tear out, is a thread in the sacred design. The shame was never yours to carry. It was placed on you by voices that didn't understand your value. But heaven has always known who you are. And still, you are being called. Your story is not too messy. Your heart is not too heavy. Your journey is not too late. What matters is not how long you wandered. It's that you're returning now. And with your return comes wisdom, compassion, depth. You can reach people others can't because you've sat where they've sat. You've bled where they've bled. You've doubted and still found your way to hope. This is the sacred reversal. Where shame once silenced you, grace will now give you a voice. Where regret once chained you, purpose will now lead you. You are not the same person who walked into that pain. You've changed. You've softened. You've deepened. And that version of you, the one born in the fire, is exactly who this world needs. So don't hide your past. Don't cover your scars. They are evidence that you've survived, grown, transformed. They are proof that what the world called broken, God has called beautiful. And your testimony will not be the absence of pain, but the presence of purpose in spite of it. Let this be the moment you lay down the shame. Let this be the chapter where you finally forgive yourself. Not because everything you did was right, but because your healing matters more than your history. You can't rewrite the past, but you can reclaim it. And when you do, you'll find that the very thing you thought disqualified you is the very thing God will use to set others free. It's time to stop looking back in regret. You're not the person you were then. You're becoming who you were always meant to be. And God can use every moment of your past to build the future He's still calling you into. You've spent so much of your life trying to do what's expected, trying to be responsible, trying to be good. You've worked the hours, paid the bills, played the part, and still, somewhere inside, you've quietly asked, is this really all God wants from me? Just to survive, pay rent, and retire? Chosen one, the answer is no. That's not what God truly wants from you. He didn't create your soul just to clock in and out of days that feel empty. He didn't breathe life into you so that you could wither under the weight of obligations that don't feed your spirit. The truth is, that 9 to 5 wasn't just a job, it was a trap, a spiritual distraction, a system that trained you to settle. You were told that your value came from your output, that the more hours you gave, the more worthy you became, that your worth could be measured in productivity, performance, perfection. But God never asked for that. He asked for your heart. He asked for your surrender. He asked for your presence. You were not made for hustle. You were made for holiness. Not the kind that hides behind rules and rituals, but the kind that shows up in how you love, how you create, how you live from your soul. The reason the job never fulfilled you is because your purpose was never tied to it. Your divine assignment is something deeper, something eternal, something only you can bring into this world. God doesn't want your exhaustion. He wants your essence. He wants what makes you alive, your voice, your gifts, your sensitivity, your boldness, and yes, your wounds too. Because every part of you, especially the parts you've tried to hide, is a piece of the sacred work He's calling you to step into. This is why the system failed you, not because you were weak, but because you were never meant to be a part of it forever. You were meant to rise above it, to come out from under it, to live a life that breathes, that moves, that touches others in ways no corporation ever could. What God wants instead is your yes. Not to another role that drains you, but to the path that's been whispering your name in the quiet. He wants you to create, to build, to teach, to rest, to serve in the way only you can. Not out of pressure, but out of peace. He wants you to break free from a life of reaction and step into a life of revelation, where you don't just wake up, you awaken, where your days aren't just filled, they're anointed, where you don't just work, you walk in purpose. The world conditioned you to chase titles, but God is calling you to carry truth. The world told you to blend in, but you were chosen to break through. You've given enough of yourself to the system. Now give yourself back to your soul. Let go of the guilt that tells you you're being selfish for wanting more. Wanting more doesn't make you ungrateful, it makes you honest. And God honors honesty. He blesses alignment. He moves when you move in truth. So if you've been wondering what God wants from you, the answer is simple but sacred. He wants you to come alive, to stop abandoning yourself for what looks secure, to trust that what He placed in you is enough. You don't need to prove your worth anymore. You don't need to earn love through burnout. You don't need to explain why the 9 to 5 never fit. The calling on your life doesn't come with a job description. It comes with a fire in your belly, a stirring in your spirit, a restlessness that refuses to die. And that chosen one is your confirmation. You're not losing your mind. You're finally finding your mission. And it's time to say yes to what God wants instead. You were never meant to simply work. You were meant to build, not just with your hands, but with your presence, with your truth, with your gift. The question that's been rising in your soul, what am I really here for, is not confusion. It's the blueprint awakening inside you. Chosen one. You've always felt drawn to something beyond the ordinary. You've imagined things, dreamed things, felt the pull toward a vision you couldn't explain to anyone else. That pull wasn't fantasy. It was a divine seed planted long ago, and it's been waiting for the right time to grow. You see, the 9 to 5 kept you busy, but God is calling you into a space where you're not just filling time, you're fulfilling destiny. This isn't about abandoning work. It's about redefining it. It's about shifting from labor to legacy, from running on autopilot to walking in alignment. So what were you meant to build? Maybe it's a message, a story, a healing space, a movement, a business that serves the soul, not just the market, a community that sees the unseen, a song, a book, a garden, a haven for the weary. Whatever it is, it won't come from pressure. It will come from peace. It will rise through your gifts, gifts you've pushed aside for too long. The things you do naturally, effortlessly, joyfully, the parts of you that still feel alive, even in the hardest seasons. Let this truth sink deep. What brings you life is not random, it's revelation. You were meant to build with that, not just to survive, but to serve. Not just to hustle, but to heal. And the proof is in the ache. You've felt it when you've worked jobs that made you invisible. You've felt it when you've stayed quiet while your spirit burned with truth. You felt it when you saw others living boldly and whispered, "I was made for that too." You were. But your time is not behind you. It's ahead. The divine doesn't rush. Some callings take decades to unlock because what you're building isn't surface. It's sacred. So if you're waiting for a sign that it's not too late, this is it. The dreams you laid down are still breathing. The voice you silenced is still echoing. The blueprint hasn't changed. It's been waiting for you to remember. You don't have to know every step. You only need to start. Build the first thing. Share the first message. Offer the first seed of what you carry. And watch how heaven meets your movement. Watch how your peace multiplies when you align with what you were actually born to do. This isn't about chasing influence. It's about answering instruction. The divine assignment on your life isn't about applause. It's about impact. You were meant to carry something that outlives you, and no 9 to 5 could ever hold that. That's why you felt confined, because you weren't built for the clock. You were built for the kingdom. So now it begins, slowly, sacredly, brick by brick, breath by breath. You are not building alone. You never were. You're being guided. You're being equipped. You're being called. It's time to return to the blueprint, the one your soul never forgot. Leaving a job sounds simple on paper. A resignation letter, a last paycheck, a goodbye. But when you're a chosen one, leaving the system is not just a career decision, it's a spiritual transition. It's not about quitting, it's about crossing over. It's about stepping out of one world and into another. One built on noise and performance, the other built on purpose and peace. You've probably thought about leaving before. You've felt the weight of it, the fear, the guilt, the questions. What will people think? What if I fail? What if I'm being foolish? But what if you're not being foolish? What if you're being faithful? What if that discomfort you've been feeling isn't anxiety? It's divine momentum. Chosen one, the spiritual exit is not an escape from responsibility. It's a return to divine responsibility. It's not about running away from pressure. It's about walking into your proper place. You were never meant to serve a system that drains your soul. You were meant to serve a calling that awakens it. When the spirit begins to nudge you, everything familiar can start to feel foreign. The meetings, the deadlines, the hierarchy. You start to feel like a visitor in a world you once belonged to. That's not rebellion. That's revelation. It's heaven telling you you've outgrown this assignment, and leaving doesn't always mean a dramatic exit. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's gradual. Sometimes it begins internally long before you pack a single box. But make no mistake, when you are chosen, even your leaving is led. There is grace for the crossing. There is provision on the other side. This shift may cost you comfort, but it will give you clarity. It may challenge your income, but it will restore your integrity. It may make you feel temporarily lost, but it will lead you back to yourself. The world trained you to chase survival. But the Spirit is calling you into significance, so don't confuse stillness with stuckness. Sometimes God will pause everything around you just to get your attention, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Because He knows that when you leave the system, you need more than a plan. You need power. The power to believe in what hasn't yet manifested. The power to walk when the ground hasn't fully formed beneath your feet. This is your Red Sea moment. Behind you, comfort. Before you, calling. And even if it feels like the waters haven't parted yet, you still take the first step. Because obedience opens what overthinking never will. Chosen one, you are not walking away from stability. You are walking towards sovereignty. You are not losing structure. You are entering sacred space. And what awaits you is not just freedom, it's fulfillment. Not just rest, but remembrance. Not just work, but worship. So let the exit be holy. Let it be slow if it needs to. Let it be bold if it must. But let it happen, because your spirit is no longer asking for permission. It's giving you a push, not a push to escape life, but to finally step into it. Now that you've made the decision, or maybe you're still standing at the edge of it, there's something you need to know. This next chapter will not always be loud. It will not always be fast. The moment you step away from the system, you also step into silence. And for many, that silence feels like being forgotten. But chosen one, you are not forgotten. You are being formed. The world moves fast. It demands progress you can measure, results you can post, achievements you can count. But God doesn't move on that clock. Divine timing is slower, quieter. It breaks all the rules you were trained to live by. And if you're not careful, you'll mistake the stillness for failure. But it's not failure, it's formation. Feeling forgotten by destiny is not a sign that destiny has abandoned you. It's a sign that it's working behind the veil. You don't plant a seed and see fruit the next day. You cover it, you water it, you wait. And while nothing seems to be happening above ground, everything is happening below it. So if you find yourself in that quiet stretch between the leaving and the blooming, do not panic. Do not return to the old out of fear. Your soul may ache for movement, for proof, for signs. But this time your proof will be your peace, your clarity, your courage to keep walking even when the road disappears under your feet. Chosen one, the road ahead will require patience. It will test your trust. You won't always know what's next. But you will know you are no longer lost. You are no longer pretending. You are no longer performing for a system that could never see the fullness of who you are. You're walking the narrow path now, the sacred road, and yes, it may look empty at times, but it's not. It's holy ground. Heaven clears the path of distraction before it fills it with destiny. You had to lose what wasn't aligned so you could recognize what is. Midlife isn't too late. Delay isn't denial. And waiting doesn't mean wandering. You're not behind. You're not being punished. You're being recalibrated. And when it's time, things will unfold in ways you never could have orchestrated. Connections, resources, opportunities. Doors that only open when your spirit is finally in alignment. You were never meant to chase time. You were meant to trust timing. And divine timing is precise. It's poetic. It doesn't need permission to move. It moves when you're ready to receive, not just ready to hustle. That's why your old patterns had to break. That's why you had to be still. Because your next step isn't just about you. It's about everything that's waiting to be blessed through you. So stay the course. Let the silence teach you. Let the waiting stretch you. Let the road remain quiet, if it must. Because on this path, no moment is wasted. Every unseen movement is a step toward becoming. And even if you don't see it yet, you are being built. Slowly, strongly, divinely. Your time is not lost. It's layered in grace. And it's coming. You've come far, chosen one, not just through this message, but through the years of holding on when no one saw you. Through the long nights when your soul was aching for something more. Through the silent seasons where you felt invisible, wondering if destiny had passed you by. But you're still here. And that means something sacred. That means you're not done. That means you're still chosen. What you've heard today isn't just a message. It's a mirror, a reminder, a sacred return. Because the truth is, your soul already knew this. It just needed someone to speak it aloud. Sometimes, all we need is one voice to echo what we've buried. One confirmation to remind us that we're not crazy, not late, not lost, just awakening. The 9 to 5 may have felt like a trap, but you're no longer inside it. You've seen the exit, you've heard the call. And even if you're still standing in between, the job and the dream, the fear and the faith, you are no longer the same. You've remembered who you are. You've remembered what you carry. And most of all, you've remembered who called you. This space was never just a video, it's a place. A spiritual room for your soul to breathe. A resting point on your journey. A reminder that when the world gets too loud, too fast, too heavy, you can return here. To the voice that sees you. To the rhythm that matches your spirit. To the truth that doesn't demand performance, only presence. So if this stirred something in you, don't keep it silent. Comment 777 or 1111 to mark your moment of remembrance. Not for the algorithm, but for your own soul. Let it be a declaration. Let it be a stepping stone. Let it be the sound your spirit makes when it says, I remember now. And if you haven't yet subscribed, not to me, but to the divine within you, to this path, to this unfolding, to this becoming, because we are building something here, not for numbers, but for souls. And your presence matters. You belong here. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need to know what tomorrow holds. You only need to stay close to the truth that brought you here. And come back when you forget. Come back when the road feels heavy. Come back when your light feels dim. This space will still be here, waiting, open, sacred, whenever the world gets too heavy. This space is here. Come back to rest your soul, chosen one. You are not alone. You never were. And now that you've remembered, go gently, go boldly, go with peace. The path is open. The time is now. And your spirit is ready. You've walked through the layers now. You've listened. You've remembered. You've cried a little, maybe silently. And somewhere in your heart, you've awakened. You've seen that what you called burnout was really a holy signal. That the routine you survived was never meant to define you. That what felt like delay was actually the divine realigning your steps. Chosen one, this is not the end of the story. It's the quiet beginning of the life you were born for. You may not know every next step, but you now know what you can't return to. You can't go back to sleep. You can't go back to shrinking. You can't go back to pretending that you belong in places that never fed your spirit. Let me show you something sacred. The reason you felt so heavy is because you've been carrying dreams that were never watered. The reason you felt so restless is because you've outgrown the space that once felt safe. And now God is calling you out of the trap, not to punish you, but to prepare you. You are stepping into something eternal, into something chosen. And it's okay if you're trembling. That's what real change feels like. You see, God never needed your perfection. He needed your yes. And if all you have to offer today is a whispered yes, then that's enough. That's more than enough. Because heaven always moves on obedience, not performance. This video was never just information. It was impartation. Not just content, but confirmation. You've been wondering if you're too late. You're not. You've been wondering if you're too broken. You're not. You've been wondering if you missed your moment. But chosen one, you are the moment. Now, before you leave, I want to invite you to do something sacred. If this message touched something deep inside of you, if you felt seen, if you felt remembered, comment 777 or 1111 below. Not for numbers, not for the algorithm, but for your soul. Let it be a declaration, a small act of agreement, a spiritual yes that marks this moment. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, not just to this channel, but to your unfolding. Subscribe to your healing. Subscribe to your calling. Subscribe to the rhythm of your soul finally rising again. There's more coming, more light, more guidance, more truth. And I don't want you to miss what's next. Let these words be your reminder. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. Psalm 37:23. You are not wandering aimlessly. Your steps are being guided, even now, even in uncertainty, even in silence. And if ever you find yourself weary again, caught in the noise, pulled back toward the old patterns, remember this: whenever the world gets too heavy, this space is here. Come back to rest your soul. You are not too late. You are not too lost. You are chosen by God, and the trap can no longer hold you. So breathe, stand, begin again, and walk, not as one who's forgotten, but as one who's finally remembering.